Hello and welcome to Dojo Live this Thursday, January 11th, 2024. My name's Kim Lantis and I'm super excited to be hosting a conversation today that we're having. We're kicking off a 5-part series on the show, a collaboration between Dojo Live and Provision Partners. It's all about doing more in 24 and identifying how to take the next step with AI. Here to kick it off with me, I have Provision individuals David Chestler, as well as Andrea Main. David is the president of Provision Partners, and Andrea is their SVP of Strategic Marketing. David, Andrea, thank you so much for joining us today on Dojo Live.
You're welcome. We're excited to be here.
Yes. Thanks for having us.
I'm super excited too. You know, throughout this series, we're going to be looking to answer and help companies, hospitality companies in particular, achieve a couple things, right? I understand that to be first and foremost how to proactively prepare their organizations for AI planning and deployment, right? That can feel a little overwhelming. We're also looking how to establish AI infrastructure and making it efficient, scalable, well-managed, future-proof. I love that word. And determining, best paths forward, if that means a build versus buy model, and of course, techniques for delivering these such tangible business values, fostering trust across the organization, and a whole lot of things. Before we dive in more to what we're going to be talking about this series, we would love to kind of get to know the two of you a bit better. If you could please just share a bit of your background, your passion in travel and hospitality, and what sort of led up to Provision Partners.
Ladies first.
Ah, right, Andrea.
I have been in the hospitality industry on the PR marketing side of B2B hotel technologies for more decades than I would like to admit on a public channel like this. But I joined Provision Partners after, several decades of having my own PR marketing company. Happy to be with this magnificent group of consultants who are very knowledgeable about the industry. And we're excited to be here to talk about AI because we're passionate about new technologies and innovations for our industry. And AI is, of course, the most powerful tool that we have out there right now. And there are many, many uses of it. So we're excited to hear David's take on that today.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I guess Provision, we're kind of player coaches. We were formed, all of us came from the industry. We've had successful pre-lives, and we came together with the thought that we can be more outcome focused, truly on hospitality and travel. And we have the marketing, PR media side, which Andrea runs. We also have a consultancy, which Sally Kelly and Greg Pesic, who's one of the founders, run. And they have phenomenal depth of both character and skill. We came together again because we had this vision that back in the day, it used to be you hire IBM and you won't fail. Well, nowadays, a lot of companies look to large consultancies, and we felt that creating more of a boutique style, like a law firm almost, focused purely on travel and hospitality, where we have the depth of resources globally to help private equity, asset owners and investors, operational and vendor companies that have gotten the proof of concept, need to scale beyond that, or are legacy and have gotten to that S-curve where it starts to trend down and they need to turn it up, right? That's something that we try and help with, being transformational. A lot of people talk about revolutionary changes. We like more of a renaissance, where we can actually help you focus on a transformation, the skill that it takes, knowing where the landing is going to be, right? A lot of those things are critical areas of focus that we help bring to companies, again, operators, owners, and similar. So as a consultancy, we believe that we're more aligned with that outcome success-driven focus than trying to get more hours, right?
I love it. I love it. You used a really interesting word in your introduction of Provision, and that was revolution, sort of revolution versus renaissance. And it brings me to sort of my first question for the both of you today, and that is this AI revolution. And I think the first question is, we hear it everywhere. And my question is, if it's really needed. I mean, I get this understanding that it's particularly in the hospitality industry, right? That the AI tech is something that everyone's going to be trying to implement in 2024. And so my question is, why? Why is it needed?
Well, yeah, well, AI's been around for years, just so you know, and there's a number of different variations of AI. The one that caught everyone's attention and was a lightning bolt is this generative AI thing. And let me also just state for the record, there's no sentient robot that's going to come out and attack anyone, right? They're not going to check you in. They're not going to watch you while you're sleeping. Sentient beings don't exist. The focus on AI and artificial intelligence, of which there's many permutations, right? Conversational AI is one, the chat bots, the learning AI, right? The generative is the one that takes all of that knowledge and is able to produce fresh content. And all of a sudden, that got everyone excited because they started running their speeches through it or doing their research and that was great. Running code through it, an API, that's the progression. And with computer vision, which I think is going to be important, robotics, right? Machine learning, which we're all using in these large language models that we talk about. The deep learning that was necessary with predictive analytics, right? These are all components of AI, fuzzy logic, expert systems. So the focus on it right now is really that excitement of the computer generating stuff on its own. And I think the thing that we keep proselytizing is that no one's really going to lose their job to an AI computer. It's the potential of someone using AI more effectively than you, and they will take better advantage of the market and the conditions than you can. And it's that ability to amplify or augment your skill set, your knowledge, the awareness, the testing, all of the things, either internal facing analysis or external for the personalization and customer. That's what we're kind of getting to. How can we deploy it? That's the excitement of what AI has brought, but it's also created, and Andrea and I talk about it frequently, this AI washing, right? Where I'm going to put AI into everything I do, my investment decks, my promotional material. You know, the thing that we want to make sure everyone's aware of is that AI is a technology. And as we found with security and the whole rush to PCI and the controls that we put in, where we tried to lock down data, right? We created roles specifically for that, the CISO, right? And this security officer was able to then bring a broader focus to how do we deploy, not just once, but over and over. And that's what I think we're trying to make sure people think about AI in the right context. It's a technology. It needs to be deployed. Are we looking across the organization and our customers, colleagues, and business operations and figuring out how do we deploy it? And that's I think the area we're trying to get everyone to focus on.
I think that makes a lot of sense. What do you see with AI, the most practical applications in the hospitality industry as it stands sort of right now? Maybe what might be the top 3 that organizations might be interested in grabbing onto or getting ahead of the curve, right? Because if you don't do it, then somebody else is going to do it better. Like we were talking about, there's no robot coming to steal my job, but somebody who utilizes the technology better than me will. So, you know, if a hotel who's using technology better than my hotel will beat me out.
It's being used now. Fraud detection is probably a great way that it's being deployed quickly to analyze. Predictive maintenance, revenue management right now is very popular. You have almost this dichotomy of full automation versus humans involved, right? And how much do I trust what the system is telling me for dynamic pricing? And with attribute distribution coming, it's going to get even more complex because I need to now have the ability to count the number of rooms, the types of rooms, the attributes per room, and I need to dynamically manage that with rate, inclusions, and attributes, other things to do. Oh my God. And these are guys that have been using spreadsheets for years that are now getting into automation that's maybe 45% penetrated in the market. So now you have automation, revenue management. You have chatbots and virtual assistants. That's another way it's being utilized right now. And then personalization. So that's the outward facing way to start using AI, that I could now start understanding my customer, giving them what they want. I know it's a business guy, not a family. All those types of things that allow me to start to make you think I know you.
I love it, to make you think I know you. And I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking at the beginning of the show with, with the generative AI is what really got people excited. And to me, I think it comes down to the tangibility of it and the interactive nature of it, right? The human component to artificial intelligence, I think, is what we're really connecting with.
Right.
And I think that's part of what's going on here. How have you seen that play out, Andrea, in terms of just marketing or, making me think that you know me?
Well, I think it's helping us to know our customers better. And on the hospitality side, that's what hospitality is all about, is knowing your customer, knowing what their needs are, what they want from their stay. And I think on the guest-facing side, that is working splendidly. We have clients that are using it for interactive chat. That's, it's generating responses to reviews and things like that, and guest requests. So, and then that dovetails into the operational side on the back of house side, that's helping staff do their jobs better. So there's just the beauty of AI is that the diversity, I think, of how it can be used in hospitality.
To create truly the home away from home that we strive for.
Right. And it's giving, guests that peace of mind that, yes, this property does know me, and they're meeting my needs, and it's increasing, guest satisfaction, which is really what it all comes down to. Hospitality is pleasing the guest.
So we've touched, a lot here at the variety of applications of AI within the hospitality industry. I guess the next question is, amongst this whole variety, and to avoid, I think you said the term AI washing, how can we make sure that our business goals and objectives are aligning with these trends, or even choose maybe which trends best for us at any given moment, or where we should focus our efforts?
Right.
Well, I'll let David speak to that a little bit, but that kind of goes into the whole design-led thinking that we are proponents of. Is, back to your point, Kim, from the beginning, do we need AI? Yes, I think most companies do need some level of AI. It will help them, increase revenue, guest satisfaction, that sort of thing. But what do they need? And it's getting to that, what do I need? Because there is a diverse range of AI technologies.
Exactly. And I know we are going to, I think, dive into this in 2 weeks from now, right? With the design-led thinking and with Sally. But let's touch on it a little bit, like throw out that bone there. How can we align the AI trends with our business goals?
Well, if you think about idea-led thinking, right, or design-led thinking, excuse me, it really is taking that empathy that we have for guest and colleague and better exploring how we're providing said services. So where are the touch points that we need to focus on? And that's why we kind of like the idea of breaking down the silos. There was an interesting Airbnb, I think you've heard of this company. One of the things that Mr. Chesky announced in one of his earnings calls was that they were breaking down the silos of product marketing and blending that into marketing and sales, because the understanding of the product and the ability to deliver said service that is desired, that's all planning. And how do I optimize it for the guest, for the colleague as well? And in using the empathy in the design phase and doing the testing so that we understand the real core requirements that are needed, right? That's why we said taking the silos down. If I have sales, marketing, and IT operations all working together, recognizing marketecture is changing, because how I recognize a credential, Web3, all of these things are starting to really transform how we recognize loyal or even recognize a previous guest. right? Retargeting that's being done in SEO and SEM. All of that is how we get to the guests and how do we personalize. But then how do we optimize those offers? How do we go back into the operation and see what is being requested and be able to select the right packages, right? The right offering, provide the right imagery or the text. And a lot of that is going to be kind of designed by this core group looking at where are the touch points. Is it, again, outward facing? Is it inward facing? And how do I then generate those results through modeling and evaluation that enable me to get validation of my deployment? And that's what we're trying to help organizations understand. Not just, I'm going to put a chatbot up. You might provide a bad experience there if you're not answering the right questions, if you're not training the API bots and similar, right? How to operate within this environment and what's right. An example, a while ago, there was a death in the family, and I had to book a group of rooms. And in doing it, the conversational AI was very inappropriate and did not enable me to ask for the agent to help me to secure the multiple rooms at the rate that I saw online. And again, this is a normal conversation, but this global brand who's using AI is not using AI. They're deploying it, but they haven't tested it against the user.
They fell into the AI washing trap.
That's it. So I think the concern is, how are we using these technologies? How are we measuring them, modeling them? How are we evaluating? What are the actual factors that we're using to determine that it's working and valid, right? We talk about hallucinations that come with AI and some of the generative part. Using it to just generate content and put it online without human intervention, that's a very important fact, right? So what organization is doing that? Is it in marketing? Is it in IT? How do you structure the business? These are all preamble things that we do, getting to a business understanding that crosses over to a technology understanding that crosses over to a consumer or persona understanding. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the part that then allows you to go into the design phase and start to figure out, where am I applying what technology, right?
Yeah. And I think you make a good point, going back to the human side that we really need. And I think it's particularly important, right, in the hospitality industry. Like we mentioned earlier, we go somewhere, we're looking for a home away from home. The expectation is that it feels real, right? And so we need to make sure that when you read something or feel something, we're not dumb, right? We can feel like, I find myself being like, oh yeah, this is completely a bot. This is not a person who even wrote this, or nobody checked this, right? And you can feel kind of duped. And at the same time, I think I can forgive it because I'm like, okay, we're working through it. But I guess my question is, when it comes to these business goals and these objectives, learning or choosing, is it going to be generative AI, natural language processing, large language models, all of these things that you sort of laid out earlier. Is there a correct order of operations in the hospitality industry that organizations should be looking at? Like, this is where you're going to have the biggest ROI, and this is where you want to focus those efforts and really get it right? Or is that going to really depend from organization to organization? Like, my question is there a magic wand, a recipe to follow?
Oh, of course. It's relying on Provision Partners and Toro. We know that. But the idea is every organization is different. Unless you're aligned from the C-suite down to the operational level that AI is a critical deployment, because we did a word cloud with one of our groups. We've done several sessions with a publishing company as well, who's very interested. And one of the word clouds, the biggest word right in the middle of that cloud was scary. And I think, and these are data scientists and CIOs and CTOs and people that are, even presidents of vendor companies. And many of them are using it. They're deploying it. We have clients that are using it, deploying it, all of the aspects of that wheel of AI, right? But the main thing that's happening is you have to go into each organization, you know, for you to spend, as Expedia and Priceline did, to have the first integration of ChatGPT, they spend much more than most of our brands do on that technology. How does a hotel or a small group even try and play in that space? They have to rely on their vendors, whether it's their CRS providers, PMS providers, any number of revenue management integrations and call center applications and similar. How does that all integrate? And how do you get that large CDP, that data model that allows you to recognize credential? That takes a lot of planning. So to think that I'm just going to turn a switch because the board member came down and said, you know, Kim, I want you to deploy AI for this company. That is a big order, and it's a, you know, how do you eat an elephant, right? You have to now start breaking it down into that design model of where am I applying it? Where will it have the best application? Then where will it produce revenue optimally, right? It might be internal first because I can improve the content that I'm developing, even my, you know, patches for code or things of that nature. Or I could use it to engage with customers versus calling a front desk and getting caught because I've got a bus checking in or similar, right? There are all these various use cases that you could come up with. And that's the part of exploration that has to happen before you say, I'm going to deploy AI.
Right. Because AI is not just one thing, right? It's many things. So I could use, from a marketing side, I could use the analogy of digital marketing. Like, I'm going to use digital marketing. Oh, okay. There are many different types of digital marketing. What are you going to use? A website. You don't just deploy it once and then leave it alone. It takes constant tweaking, constant testing, you know, changeable content. It's a process. It's not just a one-time thing.
It is a process. You know, would your advice be to improve upon what we already do right? Like, do we perfect what's going well, or is it better to utilize an AI tool in things that are maybe our weakest areas? Is there a debate there, or is that also not a one size fits all?
I'm ready to jump in.
Go ahead,
I think that's why each organization is different and why you need the cross-functional team. Where do I need it? Where, you know, if I could optimize my inventory and I could use a chatbot to take some of the calls that I'm getting, like this one, and it can immediately be.
I know, that's the universe. I found that's hilarious.
Right? And now that person that's calling me right now because they want to deploy AI can immediately speak to a chatbot and find a way to get into a better engagement with the customer, but also the operation. I get more data, I get better information that I now can use to build loyalty and personalization with that engagement. And I'm not giving them a bad experience right at the front. Or I recognize you, and AI already identified several rooms and packages that might be really good for you. And that's what I want to start putting into my e-commerce environment so that I can make it transactional, not just, you know, something that I could think of in behind the scenes. So how do I action it? And I think that's where AI is heading, right? To not only be able to identify and solve problems, but also then make actions or call to actions. Your rates aren't set properly. You have gaps here. You're closed out on this day and you're getting a lot of inquiries. All of these things can be programmed and developed to optimize the operation. Conversely, what does that do to the customer as they are engaging? You can give them better choices. There was a work group we're part of with attribute-based search that talks about how people are starting to buy and what they like and what they want. Pizza was the example we used because a lot of people want a veggie or a meat lovers, but you have a whole bunch of people that want custom pizzas. AI is going to enable you to better understand the demand for all of that, enable you to buy the right supplies for all of that, to better position it in the market, and also to recognize it internally. How do I optimize that? And that's all using technology to help you better serve your customer, doing what you've been doing, back to your original question. So do what you do well and augment it with AI, supplement it, amplify it. That's what you can do with the technology.
I love it. So let's just say, for the sake of our show, right? we've convinced the audience, those in the hospitality industry, they're already hoping to or planning on implementing AI powered technologies in 2024. And we understand that it's necessary, because if we don't, we're going to be, left behind, and the competition is going to be able to do everything better than we are. And we understand that as much as we'd like for there to be a one size fits all, a magic wand and abracadabra, we are going to have to do some deep diving and do some design led thinking to figure out what's sort of best for us. But let's take it back that one step, just this final step of, how do I know that I'm ready? And already, what types of structure might I have to put in place to project manage this type of deployment, right? Yes, I'm going to do it. But do I do this in a build versus buy? And I also understand that you have a pretty kind of cool acronym that companies could utilize as they project manage the deployment of these types of technologies.
Well, we didn't create the acronym. It's actually, it's BANK, B-A-N-K, and a friend of mine who's in the IT business engraved in my head. But you always make sure you've got budget, that you've got the person who's got the critical authority to make those decisions in deployment. There's a need. So you've identified where the problem is, and I need a specific solution to apply there. So AI, I need AI, right? So I've got a budget, I've got the authority to work on it, I've got the need, and more important, I've got the knowledge. Well, there's going to be a gap, right? I could probably have three, but the knowledge piece is going to be important. And that's, again, where we believe you're going to sit down as a team and identify the areas. Is it operational? Is it customer facing? Do I need to be focused on the user experience, right? Because that UX design is going to have an effect in a number of areas. And again, depending on my organizational size, if I'm a single property, does it influence my property in my restaurant? Do I have meeting space? Do I have ancillary services that I can wrap into and automate and improve that positioning? Those are all the things that I start to think about. How does my guest engage with me? And therefore, how do I want to engage with them? And that's really going to be the start, right? That vision quest. What's that user experience I want? And then trying to take that journey. Journey mapping is also important because it helps you identify all of those touch points and areas. And always remember to include the facility, because the facility is a living entity. IoT has made our buildings alive. And
literally, yeah.
There are a lot of sensors, and I saw a recent survey that Wi-Fi is the most important technology that everyone wants when they check in a hotel. But now you've got more demands on it. So I think there are so many things. It's focusing on, do you have a budget? What is that budget? And does it match what your vision is? Or is this a long trek? And I'm going to start to use small touchstones of measurement and budget to implement and test. And at the very least, you should be using some form of AI every day. Going into ChatGPT and even testing it, writing something and then running it through the system. I'd never just send it out. I always quality check and do human intervention. But I think the more you get comfortable with it, even knowing where to go, entering some pictures into, Midjourney or similar, and generating, the look of you as of a Viking or something. Those are all fun things you could do with AI. But how do you now transition it into the business world? And unless you're testing the fences, you're going to get eaten by a dinosaur at Jurassic Park, right?
And I love that analogy. And I love what you're saying, just this suggestion of playing with it every single day, because, that word map you were referring to earlier, that word scary is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And I think that is definitely one of the goals.
Truth.
You know, we've come to the end of our half hour today, the end of the first segment of our 5-part series. I know, and it's a good thing it's a 5-part series because it became very clear today that we could go on and on and on and on in
A lot
terms
to discuss.
of course. So join us, audience. Please do join us, like we said, every other Thursday from now through March 7th. So next show, second part of the series, will be happening on January 25th. And that's going to be all about the design-led kind of thinking, the planning component of where to go with AI. And we'll follow that up with segments on implementation, deployment, testing, and iteration. Nobody wants to get eaten by a dinosaur. So. I love it. David, Andrea, thank you so much for spending your time and your wisdom with us today. And we look forward to continue the conversation on the 25th.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.